welcome to the Book of Wellbeing podcast, a place to help you to understand, manage and improve your mental health and wellbeing, where you will find the knowledge, guidance and tools you need to improve your life and where you can build your own wellbeing toolkit to take with you. When we think of habits, we usually think of things like smoking, nail biting, eating, drinking, spending money. But research suggests that around 40% of what we do is out of habit. We have bad habits, good habits, and habits that are neither bad nor good. A lot of them we wouldn't even think of as a habit. A habit is a routine or a ritual that we do automatically and frequently. It's something that we do on some kind of unconscious level. As well as something we do, we can form thought habits. They are a thought or a behaviour that becomes so automatic that we can do it without even thinking about it. It's so routine that we do it on autopilot. If habits are taking up 40% of our daily activity, then that's a huge chunk of our life. And if we're not quite happy where we are, or we continue to struggle and find things really difficult, we keep living repetitively, then maybe habits are what we need to change to make things better. We form a habit in 3 steps. Step 1, we have a cue or a trigger. Step 2, we have a behaviour that then becomes routine. And step 3, we have reward or a benefit. So if we think about this in an example, let's think about eating sweet things, chocolate, cake, sweets, when we're feeling a bit down ourselves. So first we've got the cue, the trigger. Something's happened, or we're just generally not in a good place. We may be feeling sorry for ourselves, we may be feeling down. There's the trigger. Then 2, we have the routine or the behaviour. So we go and get sweet things to eat, chocolate, cake. Then 3, this comes the reward. So we've eaten what we've got and we get a real short satisfaction. Our brain stores this as a reward. And yes, afterwards we might not experience it as reward if we've eaten too much. But our brain does store it like this. So then it likes this idea. It got something from it. So it becomes a habit. And we will repeat it. Maybe the cue isn't feeling down or low. Maybe it's just simply sitting down and watching television on a night, because a lot of us have this kind of routine. We sit and watch telly, then we eat. And the next time we feel in the same way, we will likely go for the same habit again. And you might not have this one because some people don't have a sweet tooth, but think about a habit that you have and break it down, because I bet you can find those 3 steps. The cue, the behaviour, the reward. You aren't a bad person or wrong for forming a habit, so stop beating yourself up about it. It's a process that you have. We all have. We form habits through this process. They aren't just there, they develop. And because they develop, we can change them by altering the 3-step process. We can't alter the cue or the trigger, but what we can alter is the next step. It's the behaviour, the action, what we do about it. Habits are an important part of who we are because, like I said earlier, they play a big part in our lives and what we do. You might know your habits pretty well, or you might not, and you probably do have 1 or 2 that you should or would like to change, because you're human and we all have them. We all have our crutches, our comforts and things we fall back to, because our brains carve the way for them and give them a home. Usually we have a habit that deep down we know we need to change when we know it's not all that good for us. After that brief period of reward, there's some kind of consequence, or it impacts on the way we're feeling in some way. Some examples of habits that we might need to work on include the way we think, how we react to situations, how we respond to stress and others, our eating habits, whether we're overeating, undereating, even eating too fast, what we drink, watching TV, how we sleep, exercising or avoiding exercising, procrastinating, losing our temper, and one we're almost all guilty of, spending too much time on our phone or on social media. And remember, I said earlier, not all habits are bad. Some of them are good and some of them we need. But when we're having a look at them and thinking about the impact they have, we do need to filter out the ones that aren't so good. Keep an eye open and analyse what you do over a day or two and make a mental or physical note of your habits. A lot of them will be good and you need to keep them. Brushing your teeth, washing, actually eating, going to work, looking after the kids, etc. You know you need to keep them if the outcome of it stops at the reward. Once you know your habit or habits, think about, analyse the impact of them. Does it alter the way you think and feel? Do you need to alter or change it? Ask your brain that simple question and it will give you the answer. Is this habit helping or hindering me? Now we have our list of habits. We've narrowed them down to the ones we need to change. And maybe it isn't a list. Maybe for now it's just one thing. Like any advice I give you in these podcasts, this is all one step at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. One step at a time is good enough. So now we know how a habit is formed, what happens in the process, and we've identified our own habits, the ones that we think we might need to work on, so we know where we might need to start. There's two ways that we can start to work on habits. We either start small, so you find the small habits, the ones that maybe feel a little bit easier, and you start on them to give yourself some practice, or you go straight in there and tackle that big habit, the one that stands out, the one you know is going to be difficult, but the one you want to change the most. Either way, there's no right or wrong as long as you start somewhere. I've got a few tools to add to the toolkit this week when we're thinking about habits and helping you to change habits. The first one is Habit Swap Shop. Sometimes the easiest way to tackle a habit is to swap it with something else. So to create a new habit, one that's a bit better for us. I used this one last year when I was smoking and I wanted to stop because of COVID. So I was worrying about my health. And when I'd followed the steps earlier and I recognised the triggers, I realised that a morning was going to be the hardest time and probably the most risky time that I would potentially go back to smoking once I'd stopped. So I used to get up, have a cigarette, have a coffee. It was a routine and I enjoyed doing it, so it did make it quite difficult. What I'd done was I started yoga. I didn't do it to become flexible or to become a yoga expert. I just wanted a healthier habit in the morning, something else to focus my mind on. So I started to do this as a routine. I would get up and instead of the fag and the coffee, I would get up and do yoga. I've actually been doing yoga every single day almost since, and that's a year later. You don't have to use yoga, you can do something else. It's just about altering the pattern, the routine that we're used to make the habit breaking easier. So try that one. The second tool, the 30-day rule. That rhymed. So when we swap, change, or stop a habit, stick to it for 30 days and be consistent for 30 days. And what this does is it first of all makes it feel more achievable, so it doesn't feel like a huge commitment, it's just 30 days. And secondly, it creates and forms a new pattern, a new routine, as well as the habit. So if we stick to it for 30 days, we're much more likely to maintain it longer term. I tried this one years and years ago when I stopped having sugar in my coffee. I can't really remember why I wanted to do that, but I remember thinking at the time, 30-day rule, I'll experiment it. That's all it is, it's just an experiment. And I'd done it And then full time I stopped having sugar in a coffee, and I still to this day have stuck to that. Another time I stopped eating white bread because it was making me feel really bloated. So I've done the same again, used the experiment technique, just 30 days. And again, longer term, it's much easier to stick to. So give this one a go because it does help if things are feeling overwhelming with habits. The third tool, use the word but. So when you're having self-doubt, when you've started to change a habit, you'll have thoughts that'll whisper to you, oh, but what if I just have this one? What if I just do it this once? Oh, it's too difficult, I can't do it. Plant a seed of doubt in that doubt and say to yourself, but what if I can do it? But what if I just try? But what if I give it another half an hour and then see how I feel? That seed of doubt and that word but, doubting your own doubts, can really go a long way. Our final technique for today is called the swish technique. So this is really well known technique, and it basically helps to alter a particular trigger we have when we think about habits, and using visualization to help with this. It's really difficult to explain briefly, so I'm going to put a link of a YouTube video on my Instagram and Facebook page so you can find it on YouTube and follow it. It's called How to Stop and Get Rid of Habits. It's by a man called Tony Robbins, who is a really good motivational speaker. He talks you through this technique, but also uses an exercise in it so you can go through it while he's talking. It's really good. You should definitely try it. You can use that one to help with fears and negative thinking as well, not just habits. It's good for all of them. And there you go. You have all you need to start to think about and make positive changes to your habits. You might not need them now, but you can come back to this in the future. You're human, so you're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to take a pause on changing habits if it's not working at this time. But you are capable, and you can change the things that you want to change in your life. You just have to believe in yourself and take the first step. Using the tools in this episode will just give you a little help along the way. That's the end of this week's episode. I hope some of it's been helpful. And think about anybody you might know that might find these podcasts helpful. Share it with them. Let them know it's there if you think it will help them. Don't forget to review and subscribe to my podcast. Have a nice week.